Hello, in this video tutorial, we are going to be talking about the end of The Great Gatsby, and we're going to be looking at Unit 3, Activity 5. Before I do that, though, I just want to mention a new announcement that I posted this afternoon about summer school registration. Everyone in a hybrid class should have already received an email from St. Michael's, from the guidance department or the St. Michael's office, letting you know about summer school. I don't know if you are interested. Some of you maybe still need to take another course. Some of you, maybe this is your last course. But if you're interested in taking summer school, either face-to-face or online, here's the registration link. So you can click here and you can apply for summer school if you need to. If you have any questions or concerns, you can email your guidance counselor. But unlike St. Michael's classes, where the guidance counselor will schedule you ahead of time, and you can make a plan with the guidance counselor and they can schedule your courses for you. Summer school is technically not a St. Michael's school. It's attached to the school board, and it's not done through St. Michael's. So you have to apply yourself for summer school. You can't have the guidance counselor do it for you. So if you're interested in summer school, please click this link. Or again, if you have questions, ask your guidance counselor. All right. With that said, we're going to be looking at Unit 3, Activity 5 today. And so this activity is going to focus on the themes in The Great Gatsby. And we will also be finishing reading the novel in this activity. So this week you will hopefully read chapter 8 and chapter 9, and that's the ending of the book. I will say that the themes that are in Activity 5 very well could pop up on your final exam. The Great Gatsby is a big unit. I don't get to test you on The Great Gatsby here in class because it's because of our hybrid nature. And so that means that my only chance to test you on The Great Gatsby is on the final exam. So expect to see a fair bit about The Great Gatsby on the final exam, especially the themes that we're going to talk about this week. Okay. What I would also take note of is that Monday, this upcoming Monday, next Monday, I should say, is Victoria Day. So it's a holiday. St. Michael's will be closed. So our next activity will be introduced next Tuesday instead of next Monday. Okay. With that said, we'll jump into Unit 3. We'll jump into Unit 3, Activity 5. Okay. So, like I said, in this activity, we are focused on theme. And we've already talked about theme in Unit 2. We talked about how every story has a theme. Every story usually has more than one theme, and The Great Gatsby has many themes. But when we say a theme, we mean a message or an idea, something that the author wants the reader to think about while they're reading. And it's really easy for me to take themes from a novel and to ask you your opinions about them and to ask you to use examples from the novel to back up your opinions. So usually theme leads to good paragraph or what we'd call opinion paragraph questions on tests or exams. So with that said, I have broken down some of the themes in The Great Gatsby. There are more than the ones that I'm mentioning here, but the ones that I'm mentioning here are the ones that I would expect you to know as you're finishing the book and maybe for your final exam. So you'll notice there is 6 different themes. And so I'll do a brief summary of them, and then I'll let you take a look at them on your own. You'll notice in each of these little summaries of theme, you're going to notice some questions. And these are questions that you should consider and have opinions about as you're finishing the book, because they're opinionated questions that, again, I could ask you, say, on a final exam. So to start with, one of the themes in The Great Gatsby is money and materialism. So almost every character in this book is obsessed with money. They all want more money. They are all either new money or old money, in the sense that some of them have had money their entire lives and their parents and their grandparents were rich, whereas other characters like Gatsby, as we find out, is new money and did not grow up rich and had to make his money on his own. And so I'm curious to know, why do you think all of these characters are so materialistic and are so interested in money? And how do you think materialism, or the need to get more things and the need to have more money, affects their choices? And I think that many of the characters in this book let money make some very important decisions for them. For example, I would suggest that some characters marry the person that they marry almost entirely because of money. And so money in this book is a big motivating factor that leads characters to make big decisions. So I would expect you to have some opinions about that, and maybe to be able to give me some examples. Next, we have society and class. So this book is very much about class. It's about the different groups in society. Some have money and some do not have money. And I like to say, and I just mentioned old money and new money, I like to say that in this book, there are three types of people. There are people that come from old money, there are people that come from new money, and there are people that come from no money, like the people that live in Valley of the Ashes. So I would expect you to be able to identify characters in those different categories. And I would expect you to know the difference between the old money, the new money, and the no money characters, and maybe be able to compare them. I think this book has a lot to say about the difference between people that inherit money and never have to work for it, who we call old money, and people that make their own money and have to maybe work hard for it, maybe not always in the most legal way, but have to earn money in their own way, and we call them new money. Okay. All right. The third theme that we can talk about in this book is the American dream. And this is a term that became popular around this book. And the term American dream has been used for a very long time. And again, this book kind of made this idea famous. And so the American dream says that if you move to America, or well, it doesn't matter if you're born in America or if you move to America, that if you work hard in America and try hard and do your best, you will succeed. You will be successful. The American dream is that everyone can succeed in America. And the argument is that this book has a lot to say about that idea, maybe positively or negatively. So I'd be very curious to know, does this book support the idea of the American dream, that everyone can be successful? Or does this book criticize that idea and say, no, the American dream is a myth, and not you can't just be successful by working hard and wanting to be successful? That America is not necessarily any better than any other country, in the sense that some people are going to succeed and some people are not, and that life is maybe not fair, right? So that's an interesting question to me. I'm curious to know, what do you think of the way the book looks at the American dream? Um, if you live in the United States, is it automatic that you can be successful if you try hard and if you work hard? I have my own opinion, but I will leave that to you. I think the book has a lot to say about that. All right, number 4, we have love, desire, and relationships. I think this book is a very interesting book in terms of how it looks at love. I'm really curious. Do you think anyone in this book actually loves each other? Do you think Gatsby really loves Daisy? Like, he thinks he does. He thinks he loves Daisy more than anything in the world. But is he really in love with her? Is that is his feelings towards her really what we would call love? Does Daisy love Gatsby back? Does Daisy love her husband? Does her husband love her? Does Nick love anybody in the book? I think the book has all of these characters and all of these relationships. And it's very interesting how they present love. And I'm wondering whether you think they present love in a positive or a negative way. And again, I go back to my question. It's right here. Does anyone in this novel actually love somebody else? Or is it all just about money and materialism and other things? Moral responsibility. The book is asking some interesting questions about who's at fault and maybe who is the bad guy. This novel is filled with bad behavior. You have people lying, you have people cheating on their spouses, you have physical abuse, you have crime, you have murder, you have all of these different things going on in the book. And I'm curious, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, especially if you haven't read the last two chapters yet. But I would be very curious about who you think is morally responsible for the bad things that happen in this book. We're going to have major characters in this book who die, and I'm curious to know whose fault do you think that is? Do you think there's somebody in this book that is a villain and is causing all of the problems? Do you think everyone is kind of at fault in this book? Do you think some of the characters that who have bad things that happen to them are causing their own problems? I'm curious to know who you think is responsible for the bad things that happen in this book. And then last but not least is identity. And I'm very curious, if you've gotten to this part of the book so far, you already know that Jay Gatsby is a made-up name, that his real name is James Gatz, I should say. And so I'm curious, you have a man who's the main character in our book who has completely reinvented who he is and has completely made up a new identity for himself. And I'm curious if you think that's possible. Can someone really change who they are? And can they change their past and make themselves into somebody else, make themselves into somebody new? I'm curious about those ideas, about identity. And I'd be very interested in you explaining to me maybe the differences or the similarities between James Gatz and Jay Gatsby. I mean, they're the same person, but maybe I'm curious to know how much you think Jay Gatsby was able to change himself, or is he still just the same person he always was? So again, identity is a very interesting idea in this book. So those are the 6 themes. There are certainly other ideas in the book, but those are 6 ideas that I would like you to think about, that maybe I would ask you your opinion about, say, on a final exam. But as always, you've got your chapter questions here. So you're going to read chapter 8 and chapter 9, which are the last 2 chapters of the book, and then take a look at the chapter questions. You do not have to submit the chapter questions to me, but if you have any questions, let me know. They are your study guide. And I think that if you have answered all of the chapter questions from chapter 1 to chapter 9, even if you've just done point form notes, you don't have to write long answers. If you've just made notes, you've done a good job summarizing the book, the characters, the events, and it will hopefully come in handy when you study for the final exam. With that said, we do have a final assignment for Unit 3 in this activity. So if you click on the assignment button here at the bottom, and I'll take it from here. Let's see if I can do this. The assignment is about the end of The Great Gatsby. So you can't answer this question and you can't complete this assignment until you have finished the book. So once you've finished the book, I'm going to ask you this. It says, now that you have finished reading The Great Gatsby, reflect on the novel's conclusion. Was it satisfying for you? Did it leave any unresolved issues? How would you change the ending? Simply put, I'm asking you to give me your opinion about the ending of the book. And when I say the ending of the book, I include the last two chapters. So chapter 8 and chapter 9, the two chapters that you should be reading this week. So I say, fully explain your own personal opinion on how the novel ended. If you liked the ending, then explain to me why. If you did not like the ending, describe how you would change the ending. Why didn't you like the ending and what should have happened instead? Include at least 3 specific examples from the last 2 chapters, so chapter 8 and chapter 9, to support your opinion. Okay, this is really important. Write your own personal opinion in your own words. I do not want to read what the internet or AI says about the ending of the book. I want your personal opinion written in your personal style. This is a personal opinionated question. Okay, it's not meant to be a research question. Your response should be written in one properly structured paragraph and be at least 10 sentences. And then this is the rubric, how I will grade it. If you the simplest way to do this would be to open up a new Google Doc, a blank Google Doc, and then just type out your opinion in one paragraph and submit that Google Doc to me. Remember, all assignments must be written and edited in Google Docs. I'm very interested in hearing what you think. I'm not going to, you can tell me you love the ending. You can tell me you hate the ending. Your opinion is not going to be judged by me in the sense that I think there's a right and a wrong. There absolutely isn't. So feel free to tell me what you think. Just make sure that you explain yourself and you give specific examples to back yourself up. And that's it. This will be the last assignment for The Great Gatsby in Unit 3. We will have one more week with The Great Gatsby next week where we'll do a bit of a review. But this will be the last assignment for Unit 3. So please let me know. Send me an email if you have any trouble or if you need any help. Okay. With that said, let's see if I can close this. With that said, please, have a good week.